So the climate has actually gotten 50 times safer in the last 80 years.
You might be familiar with a saying called "Don't feed the trolls."
Yep.
These are like the world-class trolls.
Wow.
You
really devastated
He just
me with
debated
that
Bill
argument.
McKibben last week and got destroyed in a public embarrassment on TV.
Wait, what's your name?
Wait a second.
Are
Last
you
week?
Alex? About last month, I
Last
guess.
week.
What's your last
Okay,
name?
so we've had 5 ad hominem so far.
So,
you
either way,
misstated something
my
by a
advice to everyone
factor
here,
of 10.
just ignore them. Don't feed the trolls. They get bored and go away.
So who are you?
There.
What is your name?
I'm Matt.
What's your credential?
I simply know who you are. I don't mean to feed you.
How do you know I'm a troll? What do you know? I'm just
I've
curious.
seen you speak publicly before.
What is your knowledge? What is your knowledge? I know you're trying to make me feel bad. That's very impressive.
No.
But what
I'm
do you
just making sure people know who you are and understand why you're here.
Okay, but by saying I got destroyed, I
would vote.
So I'm curious. What do you know about the world?
Would you like to paddle and listen to some music and create some energy? It's fun and it's good music.
There's
nothing controversial about that.
No, but I find it offensive that you're encouraging people.
Well,
you're
you
making
don't have
people.
to watch, then.
You're making people
Excuse
feel
me,
guilty.
we have to set up in like 10 minutes.
Okay.
I appreciate you casting the questions,
I'll
but
move.
we have a show we need to do. So
I appreciate
thank you.
that. So how do you explain the drastic decline in climate danger in the last 80 years? Doesn't that indicate that fossil fuels powering technology is an incredibly positive force for good? Another question would be, do you feel at all grateful for the fact that cheap, reliable energy allowed you to wear all of those clothes? You know, even as sort of a person of moderate to low intelligence, you're able to clothe yourself. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That wouldn't have happened in most centuries. You've got an oil-based jacket. All your clothes were made using fertilizers. You've got oil-based shoes.
Bill is unfriendly, and he's going to destroy your country.
Yeah, so anyway, this guy is an interesting character. So it's a very typical thing of certain kinds of movements where they try to intimidate by using very deceptive terminology. So he calls me, for example, hey there, he calls me a, quote, climate denier, right? And so what does that mean? I deny the climate changes? No. What I deny is that the climate is becoming catastrophically dangerous, because the clear factual record is that climate safety has increased dramatically over the last 80 years as fossil fuel increases. Climate safety? And so this is a really, really interesting body of data, which is inconvenient to the people who are trying to convince us that capitalism is evil. And it's not a new phenomenon. The people who taught Matt, were mostly socialists, and what happened was historically they advocated communism, and communism failed. And then they focused on the Vietnam War, and then that was over, and they needed a new cause, a new way to attack, mostly capitalism. And the way that they found was claiming that capitalism destroys the planet. Now, empirically, this was very inconvenient because capitalism had upgraded the human environment for centuries. And it still had a long way to go. And what we've seen in the last 50, 60, 70 years is that it's become that much better. And yet, as it's becoming better, they keep claiming it's becoming worse, because the worst thing for them would be to admit that capitalism is awesome, that transforming the earth is awesome, and that it's awesome that we've been able to create these technologies that they're trying to drown me out with. So, most of these guys couldn't run a 7-Eleven, but they want to curse. Let's look at this. This is plastic, this is oil, this is oil, this is coated with oil. These are all industrial processes. And yet, most of these guys oppose the only 3 reliable sources of energy, which are fossil fuels, nuclear, and hydro. So they want us to live on unreliable energy by some unspecified means, and yet they're using things completely produced by reliable energy. And what's interesting is, I brought up some facts that you would think that would make them excited. Like, imagine you thought that the climate was going to hell, and then you learned that it turns out it's getting better. Would you be excited? I would be excited. But it seems like some people who predict disasters are not excited at all about the prospect of things getting better, because their whole self-esteem depends on capitalism and productive people being evil. So they're very comfortable condemning Exxon, saying that they hate your children, etc., even though they flew here, you know, basically on fuel created by Exxon. So part of what we're here to do is share with those who actually care about life and a healthy environment, which we do, improve the planet. Part of what we're here to do is share that good news. But to really care, you have to think hard about what makes a great planet. You can't just listen to someone who says there's a disaster. And this is why I devoted my whole career to understanding this. And what I found out is that the key variable to a better planet is energy. And again, the three best sources of energy are fossil fuels, nuclear, hydro. Fossil fuels overwhelmingly the best right now. And so if we want a better planet, if we want the world to keep getting safer, if we want to keep having more opportunities, if we want to be able to travel, you know, visit our friends, have lots of leisure time, choose the career of our dreams, we need more energy. And there are people in the world without, there are over 1 billion people in the world without electricity. We need to be talking about producing more fossil fuels, more nuclear, more hydro. The fact that we're rallying against practical energy in a world that's starved of energy just shows how little we've been taught to appreciate the unique civilization we live in, which is the only one where you can live to 80. And so, you know, what's interesting is I heard in the background solar, and this is one of the things that bugs me, is that people claim to be enthusiastic about solar. I'll bet that 1 in 10,000 could give a decent explanation of the photovoltaic effect, or knows anything about it. But there's supposedly, everyone loves solar, but the issue is, I love solar, like, you know, for heating a swimming pool is a fantastic technology because you don't need reliable energy. But if my mother is on a respirator, I don't want to be dependent on the wind or the sun. I want energy on demand. And this is just common knowledge. That's another point. I heard the term unlimited. There's this idea that, you know, the world, that we're running out of stuff. And the problem with this theory is that we keep having more and more resources.
There's oil definitely.
So it's really interesting mentality that he just expressed here, that we can't use oil unless there's an infinite amount of oil. Well, there's not an infinite amount of anything. The sun is just a giant nuclear reaction. It'll be over in 5 billion years. The issue, though, is the way we work is we don't just do the same thing over and over and over. We always look for better things. So however much oil there is, we should make the best use of that, and we should keep looking for better stuff. Now, it's very unlikely that's going to come from using a very unreliable source that takes enormous amounts of area, enormous amounts of expensive materials. If someone can do that, that's fantastic. What you would expect the direction to be, maybe, would be nuclear power, which interestingly they hate, even though it generates no CO2. And even though not one person has died from radiation from a modern nuclear reactor. So what this points to is we grow up in a culture where people, no one died from a modern nuclear plant.
Actually, they did. There were people that died. The people that went there first, the first responders, actually died from radiation poisoning. It happens.
Not true. So anyway, but if you look at, so this gentleman was interesting because let's say that was even true. Let's say there were 2 casualties in the last 50 years. You would think that if there was really a global warming catastrophe, that you would say that, wow, the benefit of having a cheap, abundant source of energy that doesn't generate CO2, you would think, wow, that's so exciting. Let's make the plant safer. Again, if there were these safety issues, but for sure we have to use it. But no, they say, let's throw out all the good sources of energy and let's pretend that the worst energy failures of the last 100 years, let's pretend that we support those. And this is just a scam. It's just a scam for your dislike of practical energy, your dislike of civilization. And that's why these guys are over there peddling bikes as a model for how we should live. Why not get like some mini approximation of a nuclear reactor and say, hey, look, we can get like Yankee Stadium full of coal from like a golf ball of uranium. That would be progressive. But the idea that we should be like moving our legs to generate energy.
Almost like getting toppled like last spring.
Wait, so are you an advocate of nuclear power?
I am not an advocate of nuclear power.
Are you an advocate of fossil fuels?
I'm not an advocate of fossil fuels.
Do you agree with...
I have a solar panel that I use, that I charge my power and my electronics in my house. I use a solar panel.
Okay.
So it's a reliable form of electricity. I do not find that oil and gas is to be a very reliable system because there's only so much on this planet.
Okay,
Forever.
oil and gas produced everything you're wearing. You know, if you have a job or an office or whatever, that's what it powers. But obviously, a solar panel, if you pay enough for it, and if you're willing to wait a long enough time, can power minor electronics.
Solar panels are cheaper than they've ever been right now. There's an unfortunate glut of Chinese solar that's actually causing the American solar companies to not be able to be as competitive.
That doesn't answer the unreliability. So
no, the sun is always going to be there.
Was produced
the oil is not always going to be there. Coal-seam gas, fracking, that's going to destroy our water supply. And you're totally down with that.
Wait a second. If you don't like oil, then why are you upset that it's running out? Shouldn't you be happy about that? Like, why are you worried?
It's called about there's something called conservation. That people can conserve what we've got. What we have right now in Europe, the cars actually have better gas mileage because in America,
so do you like oil, or just would you rather we had no oil or a lot of oil? Like, is your dream that we had 10 times as much oil? Would that make you happy?
I'm indifferent to that now because
But you seem to be worried about running out. So it seems like you don't like it when it's there, and you don't like it when it's not there. So it just seems like you just don't like it.
Well, I don't like how dependent we are on it.
I feel fine. I don't feel dependent at all.
Well, you need to look at.
You're a walking testament to oil, right? Your jacket is oil. Your shoes are polished with oil. The bottom of your shoes are oil. Fertilizer probably manufactured jeans. So you're a celebration of oil.
Jeans, organic cotton made these jeans. So there wasn't very much oil.
Was it farmed with like a shovel?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was probably used. They probably had oil and gas that used it. The question is.
You're a celebration of oil.
Actually, sir.
No, but you said the problem with oil is that it's going to run out, and I'm saying I don't believe you're genuine.
You don't think it's going to run out eventually? No. Do you think it's going to run out? You think oil is just going to be there? We're going to have a constant supply. That there's going to be no more. We're going to keep on getting more and more oil, more oil. You think that? You think that? Really? You really do think that? I think you need to do some more research because you're not really understanding.
Okay, so I'm an oil researcher. Yeah. You don't seem very interested.
Well, I don't seem very interested because you're not listening.
To someone who doesn't know anything.
Just ignore them. Hi, you're Alex Epstein?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Steve Kritzman, Oil Change International.
Hi,
How
nice
are
to
you?
meet you.
What are you doing here?